All right. Well, Kufar, Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Crossing the Crescent discussion group. This is a weekly show live streamed here on YouTube dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. Thank you all for coming. I haven't seen, I see Rob's in the chat. And I'll go ahead and welcome you all as you all appear in the chat. Okay, so today we're here on a Monday instead of a Tuesday, and the reason why we're here on a Monday instead of a Tuesday is because this Tuesday I'm going to be going out of town for the final trip of the summer, doing something with my grandson tomorrow. Dealing with his travel ball, baseball, ball stuff. And then Wednesday is my granddaughter. We're going out of town for 5 days until next Sunday. And then next Monday, this gunfighter gets to go back to work, which I'm kind of semi-excited about and some semi-depressed about, not getting to sleep in until, I normally sleep until 6:30 now, which is, when you spend your life getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and that's late. So a lot of you are like, oh well, that's not late. Well, it's late compared to what I'm used to. Okay, so this week's show we are going to be once again, because there's so much of it, discussing Islamic fruit. In the Gospel of Matthew, Christ tells us that you will know people by the fruit that they bear. Whether it's good fruit or whether it's bad fruit. And Christianity produces good fruit. We are to love our neighbors as ourselves. We are to pray for our enemies, not curse them, and not return revilement with revilement, but we are to pray for our enemies and love them as much as we possibly can. Where the opposite is true in Islam, and we're going to point out and continue to point out that glaring difference just about every week that we possibly can. This week, our brother Isa, he sent me, after last week's show, he sent me his movie channel, IMBD something. I guess it's like you use it to advertise yourself as being an actor, and he sent me something about Gary, and I'm not going to ask him to talk about Gary because it was funny, but it was a little crude. It was a commercial for a T-shirt shop, but poor Gary. But anyway, he sent me an email. I believe it was on Monday, maybe it was Tuesday, or no. It was Wednesday or Thursday. It was almost immediately that he'd been in a pretty bad traffic accident. He was just asking for prayer, and of course, I sent it out to as many people as I knew, announcing as much. And it's pretty traumatic. And so what I want him to do is I want him to come up on cam if he can, and just give us a blurb about what happened, how you're doing, how your mom's doing. I sent you an email asking how your mom was doing, and I don't know if you're all strung out on Oxycontin or whatever, able to respond, but give us a what happened, a prognosis, and what's going to happen now going forward. You look terrible, by the way. Just saying.
I appreciate it.
But you're alive, and we love you, and we're all praying for a speedy recovery. Yeah, it's not looking good. Okay, so you're driving from Kafiristan North, heading to Kafiristan South in South Carolina, and okay, go ahead.
So I'll try to make the story pithy. So it's been a really hard week. I went to a funeral for a girl who was 7 years old who passed away. Yeah, yikes. And it was actually in the South too, because that's one thing that's really sad about the South. There isn't a lot of medical support in a lot of places because it's very underdeveloped. You know, I think there should be a lot of more medical facilities. Like if someone gets really sick, that you can rush people to hospitals and stuff. And it's just unfortunate that the South, like population wise, they don't really have a lot of like. And I don't know if I told you this, but I did a volunteer program in Kentucky with Good Neighbors, and we were helping build homes and building ramps and stuff to help support the local community there because there's a lack of resources. And I think we need to do a lot of work to kind of develop the South, and support
Like,
each
there's a lot
country.
of different directions that I could take. I'm assuming it's out in Appalachia,
Um,
uh,
yeah,
coal, coal country.
for that situation. In this situation, yeah, and I think where they were, they may have been in Georgia, but she was a girl who had a lot of illnesses, and what happened was they were going on a family reunion in the South because the family, like they live in the North, but they have family in the South. So what happened was there may have been a virus or something, and she got sick, and then she couldn't get the medical care in time because the ambulance took like 40 minutes to come get her, and it was just too late by that time, if you know what I mean. And they got her to a tiny little hospital that didn't have the resources necessary. They got her to another hospital, but it was kind of over. But it was just very tragic and just a very sad loss. So 7-year-old girl passes. Sorry, I don't want you to see this horrible gash. That's why I'm trying to cover it. But I look maybe like Harry Potter if you see it. I look like a Harry Potter character.
You're
I have a
gonna have
lightning
that.
bolt
That's
scar.
right. You're gonna have that mark. That very good. Hey, you might get a role now
I might get a role,
in the
another role.
future. In the future movies coming up, you never
I might
know.
as well just leave it because it's really too much drama to keep putting on and falling off. But basically, what happens is I then have this very close friends in Michigan, and we are planning to go see them. So we take our minivan, my mom and I's minivan, and we drive up to the what you call north. That's so silly that you call it that, but I go to the north, towards like Michigan, and it's just, we meet the people. We have a beautiful time. It's really great. Like extended family folks. Then we have to get home because I have to go work. So I go because I work at the hospital. So I got to go work at the hospital. So I get home, go work at the hospital, and on right when I come home in the morning, I'm told that my stepfather passed away. So I was like, okay, you know, they do like a very quick funeral, like in just like in 24 hours. So I'm like, okay, we got to get all the way to Monk's Corner, South Carolina. So driving all the way to South Carolina, got to go through a horrible storm, coming through. It's just really, really terrible, just terrible weather. The water's pouring, and mom's like, I want to drive. And I'm like, Mom, you're tired, you're older, please just let me take care of it. And we do. We make it there. We make it right just on time for the funeral. It's really powerful because I spent a lot of time with this man. He's my dad, and it just was a very powerful. And it was painful, but it was like a good release and relief to have that. So we bury him. Then I start like heading over to where is it? We're going to. Do you know what south of the border is? It's a kind of a place where like they have a lot of hotels and stuff. It's really kind of cool. They have fireworks and
Is this
stores.
in South Carolina or where is
It's
this?
it's South Carolina and North Carolina. It's the border of the south of
Right.
the border of
Okay.
North Carolina
Right.
and South
Okay. Yeah,
Carolina.
I know where. Is that along the interstate?
Yeah, it's a real cool amusement place. So we get a
What is that?
hotel
I
there.
10 or what interstate is that? 5 or 10 going up through there? That's no, it's
I'm
not
not
10. It's
I'm not
5.
sure what the number is.
Yeah,
I'm
it's an
sorry.
odd number because it's going north and
Yeah,
south.
yeah, you're right. So we get to the motel, and it's funny. Mom and I watch a little TV. They have Clear and Present Danger. I don't know if you've seen that with Harrison Ford, where he's like a doctor and he's accused
Oh
of.
no, his wife's a doctor. He's a CIA guy. Yeah, I've seen Clear and Present Danger. I love Tom Clancy stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
not Clear. No, it's not that one. It's The Fugitive. I'm sorry. It's The Fugitive, where he's
Oh
the
yeah,
doctor.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I love Harrison Ford.
yeah.
Yeah, this is where the
You're
one-armed
correct.
guy kills his wife, and
Exactly.
Tommy Lee Jones won an Oscar for that, I believe. If
That's
I'm
it.
not.
It's The Fugitive. I'm so sorry. I actually watched all of I'm big in Tom Clancy. I've read the books, I watched the movies, I even played the games. They have some video games too. It's really fun. I really like his work, but um yeah, not the CI, not that one, not Jack Ryan, the one where he's the doctor.
Sure.
And what happens is we were watching the end of that, and my mom was like, "Oh, this is so violent." She didn't really want to see, but I said it's pretty compelling. So we finished watching it, and we did that. And then what happened was we said we're going in the morning, and then we said let's just check mechanics because we want to make sure that the car is running okay. And we went in North Carolina. We looked for some mechanics. All of them were closed. We got to one, everything was filled up, but the guy said I'll check it out, and he kind of did a little bit of work on it, like a little bit of stuff with the machines, so to make sure that we just would make it back. And then we were going to take it to our dealer to make sure it's all fixed up. um, so then we start heading out, and mom's like, I really want to drive. Let me drive. And I said, Mom, honey, I don't think this is a good thing for us to do. Um, but we got gas, and then she just went in the driver's seat. It's like, I want to help. And I said, okay, fine. So for about an hour, we're driving, but it seems like it's a little difficult because she kind of shifts lanes a bit. Like me, I like to just stay slow and stay in the right lane because I'm like I think that's safer. Just go slowly, stay in the right lane because that just makes sure you'll get to your destination. Even if you're later, it's just that's the safer way. Um, but mom has been really tired from all of this traveling. So then she said,
And
I
how old
really
is your
want to switch.
mom? How old's your mom?
78,
She's
78.
okay. She's upper 70s, so she's not
Yeah, she's not a young
somebody who
girl.
bounces back
No.
from stuff like that. Sure, yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
and I'm much younger than her, so it's an interesting situation. So she wanted to do it, and I said after an hour, she's like, I'm getting tired. I'm like, we want to change. I said, please, we can change. That's fine. Um, I said, like maybe like in 15 minutes, or no, like in maybe half an hour, we'll change. And then in 15 minutes, she just was really like, what happened was I was watching a movie a little bit because I was taking a little break, and then I see this kind of swerve. There's this swerving that's happening. I look up and I'm like, oh, we're in big trouble. The car, my mom kind of turned the car, just she kind of loses control. She swerves, hits another car. Like I don't really even see the hit of the other car, like, but it like taps it. She keeps
Is it going in
going.
the same direction, or is this oncoming?
No, it's the same direction.
Okay.
Same direction. But then she kind of swerves into the island, like there's a grass island in between um you know the one direction of cars and then the oncoming
Hmm.
traffic. So we go through that island, we go into the oncoming traffic, so we actually go into the oncoming traffic, but we miss the cars. They don't hit us because like I don't think I'd be here today if that was the case. um but I think this is the biggest problem. The brakes fail, and I didn't have any clue about that the brakes were just completely, because when we were checking it out, it wasn't like the brakes were completely destroyed. It's just like, we need to repair them as soon as we get home, but the brakes just completely don't work. So she's pushing her foot on the brakes. This is like a horror movie, action movie. It's like insane. And she just keeps going and going. And like they have those forests on the highway, like on the side of the highway, and then she just keeps going forward and she hits the tree. She hits the tree, you know, of like going towards the forest, and it and the car kind of capsizes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I had taken off my seatbelt because I'm like, we're gonna get entrapped. Because I'm like, this is gonna be big trouble. Like we're gonna get entrapped. My mom did not happen to be wearing a seatbelt um, at the time. I guess just from utter exhaustion. This is what like
Your
happened.
mom was not wearing a seatbelt.
She wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and I had taken mine
See,
off.
that's the thing. The old people, I hate saying this, but I'll admit it. Hardly ever wear a seatbelt, ever. And the reason why is because I like sticking it to the man. Don't tell me what to do inside my car. But I get traffic tickets for it all the time. So you would think I would learn, but I get not wearing the seatbelt piece of it. So if you don't wear a seatbelt, you become a missile if you hit
Well,
something solid.
what was interesting is that that's not what happened in this case.
Oh,
No one projected
well,
out of
thank
the car.
goodness.
Yeah, so this is what was fascinating. Um, the car capsizes and it turns over into the side, and my mom slides off. Could I have it just a couple of minutes?
Oh, okay. I just have your Tylenol.
Okay.
Can I give it to you, or
Um.
just because you're getting close to junior shift?
Okay, sure. You can just give me the title. That's
You're right.
fine. Okay, you need to take my bracelet. So sorry about this.
Man, tie locks.
Yeah, this is just the way that it is.
And don't be coming on my show if you're under the influence of tie locks. You say
You're
about
silly.
anything, yeah, and we'll cut
I don't
you.
like any substances. I'm not into that, but you
No,
just have to take certain things
yeah,
here
I
because
get it.
that's
I
the
get it.
rules.
Yeah, sure.
Dude,
So
can you get like a sample pack for the rest of us? You're not sharing the good stuff.
Shut up. Come on, Rad. Don't be.
nothing. One. Um.
Don't get two.
So
I want one. Come on, dude. You gotta share, man. What the hell?
so so what happened was the car capsizes, right? And I actually agree. I don't think because see with seatbelts they can protect you or they can also entrap you. Like if you fall into like a watery situation, you could like drown. So
Sure.
it's like I think it should be at your own risk personally. Like you know it can protect you from certain things and it can hurt you in other situations. I think in this situation it was probably better that she didn't have it because she what the accident did is she slid on top of me, so
Hmm.
like I fell down to the side of the like so the car's like this, so I'm on like the window of my car, right, like the passenger window, and then she fell on top of me. So then I've never broken a bone in my body ever in my life. I've had sprains, so I've never experienced what this is like. But basically my scapula, my wing bone here gets like crushed, and it felt hurt, like it's like my arm hurts a little bit when I try to lift it. And then on the other side, what happened was I couldn't reach the to unlock the cars because people came, they rushed over. So a lot of wonderful people came and they're like, "Oh my god, we want to help you." They say, "Can you unlock the door?" And I'm like, and I would do that too. Like if I saw a car accident, I would go and do the same thing. Um, and they couldn't we couldn't get through, we couldn't get free. And then I saw the smoke coming from the steering wheel and I was like, oh no, this is not a good thing. I don't want to be like in crash where the road car explodes. It was like a horror movie. I'm not even joking, like action adventure horror movie. That movie Clear Present Danger, that actually something like that happens where the woman's car gets shot up and she's like stuck in that car and it's like really scary you
Hmm.
know um and
Well,
what
she ends up killing her baby in the movie.
is that, I thought they escaped. Don't both of them escape?
I don't think so. I think
I don't
she
remember.
loses the baby. It doesn't matter. It's just a movie anyway.
Oh, you mean like in the womb? Maybe you're talking about the baby in the womb, or because
Yeah, yeah.
she has a child.
She was
She does have
pregnant.
it.
She was pregnant, and she loses the baby. I can't, I haven't seen the movie for 15 years, but
It's
I
been a
just
long
remember.
time.
Yeah, but I get the picture, which is what you're trying to establish is give us a kind of a
Yeah.
graphic of what's going on. Yeah.
So basically, what happened was, uh, what happened was, the we're stuck in this like it's like we could be in like this grave. It's like really insane, and we're trapped. And what happens is the EMS come. It takes them like 30 minutes to come, and she's on top of me. We're stuck in this like confined space. It's pretty terrifying because I was like, I'm trying to unlock it, then my leg is broken. I'm like, why can't I move? I've never had that experience. Like when I sprained an ankle, I'm like, I can hobble, I can move, but when you're like leg is like you have a bone that's fractured, you just can't move. Like it's just I was thinking about like in ancient times, I'm like, if you broke bones, I mean, you might just die. Like it's very hard to survive that. Like our modern medicine is advanced so much, and I think we have to have gratitude for that. It's just like unbelievable because what I went through, I was like, I was thinking about Dances with Wolves because I think his leg gets broken in that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I kind of know what that's like because they were thinking about amputating, in that movie.
Mm.
But he survives it. I guess they don't want a one-legged man to be your Hollywood star, but basically what happens is they come in, they pull off the windshield, um, they pull out the back window, and they got the nice southern drawl. They all sound like this, and I was like, oh, I know this accent real well. It was very it was very nice, and they're all like, "Are you doing well, darling? Are you doing okay?" They were very sweet and comforting, and they're like, just hold in, and like you know.
So what is the status of your mother? What happened? What I mean, did she
Oh, I'll tell
have
you what
any?
happened to her. So her hand got crushed. Like I don't know if it was in the driving wheel, but her hand got kind of mangled, and I saw it and I was like, "Oh my god, that's horrific." Like the skin was pulled up. It looked really like monstrous, right? And she yeah, it was just a terrible situation. But her foot was also broken. Her shoes got taken off from the whole incident. But she was smiling and happy. Like my mom is just like a beacon of light. She's just not nothing really phases her or hurts her. Like it's kind of amazing. If you ever meet my mom, you'll see that. But basically what happened was she's just very positive, and I was like, I got to protect mom in this situation. Like this is very important for me. I'm like, she's my only parent that I have left now, you know? Um, and that was, I was like, I'm grateful that she fell on me. Like, it's a weird thing to say that, but I'm like, I'm glad I'm hurt so she's not as hurt, you know? But her hand
Is
was
she
making,
still in the hospital,
we're
or is
all in the same hospital. Yeah,
you're
she's in the
still
same
there
floor. Yeah, we're on the same floor. She's across from me. She just had 2 surgeries. I had 1 surgery.
on her foot or her
Yeah,
hand
her
or both?
foot, her ankle and her hand. So they put screws and stuff in her hand.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just tragic, but we got pulled out, we got extricated from the car, and, you know, I was they pulled me into, the ambulance, and I said, "Is mom okay?" That's the thing I'm thinking about, is mom okay? And they're like, "Yeah, we think she might be alright," and then they shredded all of our clothes. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is
Embarrassing.
rough." It's hard,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't like not having clothes in front of, like, because one of the EMTs was a female, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not comfortable for me. So I'm like, I'm trying to be as, have as much modesty as I can in this particular situation. Um, but they were really wonderful. They put in an IV into my arm to make sure I'd be okay, and I told them about my job. The woman, I was like, oh, I do spiritual pastoral care, and then she's like, "I wanna pray with you." And then, no, I said, "Do you wanna," like, we were talking about, like, it came and she's like, "Oh, I love that you do this work." And she's like, "Oh, do you wanna pray?" And I said, or we agreed on wanting to pray, something like that. And she's like, I said, "Could you hold my hand?" And then she held my hand and she prayed, and it was very nice. It was a
Oh,
very
sweet of her. Yeah.
beautiful experience, and she was talking about her own faith, and, it was a very powerful experience, and she prayed for me, and it was a very beautiful thing, and we made it there, and it was like 45 minutes away, because like the hospital that I'm at is far away from the rural area that I was in. So just a very, very long, grueling process, and I have this shattered leg, and I get it. My mom gets here to the hospital first, and she's just smiling and happy and talking bubbly. Like that's just the beautiful thing about her. She's just like, like a light in the room, and everybody's so happy with her. And then I come in, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she was very happy that I was there. And then I just had to go through all these procedures that night, and I was in the emergency room, but it was so painful because I couldn't move my
Mhm.
leg, and they just said, "Keep straightening your leg here. I'll show you." Like you can see like what it looks like.
Do they have that in traction? Is that still in traction?
It's called yeah, it's yeah, the projection. It's like I forgot the exact term. It's like the outward projection, and then they do the inward one later on my second surgery. But I'm not um I'm not on the trauma list. So all the other patient, this is the trauma hospital for all the areas, so they go before me.
Mhm.
So, whenever they'll take care of me, they'll take care of this. But um
So they're
I'm
gonna
just
put
happy
like,
we're alive. I'm grateful. Like I'm thankful. And then the chaplains came in and saw me, and they were just really beautiful and wonderful, and helped me contact my job. Everything's going to change probably, like even with work, because like I have to find remote work, because I'm going to have to do like physical therapy for a while. But
How long do they say that you're going to be laid up? I mean, they're in the hospital and, you know,
yeah,
coming back from this. It sounds like it's going to be a long process.
I'm going to probably
Uh,
not be able to do, like, I do a lot of volunteering. I don't know if you know that about me, Eric, but I go and volunteer at like breakfast missions and stuff. I go serve food to the unhoused or the homeless, like pretty much every day. Like that's something I do like every single day. I go early in the morning, and that's gonna be hard that I won't be able to do that.
Sure.
But I go and make meals for people, um, and it's a very beautiful thing that it's like a blessing that I can do these things. And so, yeah, that's the kind of work.
Well,
And
that's just not to interrupt, but
sorry, no, please.
that's what people say that when you care for others, the blessing is not the people who are receiving it. It's more of the people who are giving it. You feel more blessed when you do things like that instead of those who receive it. So, yeah, I completely understand
Amen to that.
what
That's exactly what
So,
it is. Mm.
so Issa, so they're glad you and your mom are all right and everything. So your leg, I'm just kind of curious. So you gotta have surgery, like putting in like titanium rods and stuff. That
They're
kind
going to
of
do
stuff.
that. Burning to put plates and nails, and
Oh, dude, so
um,
you're gonna be an improvement then, dude.
I'm
Your
going to be
leg's
what?
gonna be great. It's gonna be an improvement. You're gonna be like Terminator, man.
Yeah,
You're
funny.
gonna
Yeah,
be
I'm a
have a
cyborg.
leg of steel. Yeah, you have a leg of steel, titanium, man.
You're silly. You're
Better,
silly.
better than ever.
I'm
yeah,
just grateful that mom's alive. I'm alive. Yeah, like all my stuff is stopped. But they say that. They say man proposes, God disposes. And I think that you have to kind of surrender and just accept whatever the plan is. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to be stuck on a bed, and your life is just different than it was before. But I'm grateful, and thank you for allowing me to share the story. I know
no,
that
it's
you want to talk about
quite all
other
right.
topics, but that it was a very powerful story for me, because it's interesting because I have another channel that I stream on. It's called Yerba Mate Talks. It's connected to the modern day debate. Like, we have an after show debate program, and on that show, we were debating. The debate was between secular humanism versus Christianity. Um, and Andrew Wilson. Do you know who Andrew Wilson is? He's kind of very popular, kind of Christian debater. Um,
Can't say I do. Sorry.
he's an Orthodox Christian, but yeah, he's a big debater. He's like kind of conservative Christian debater. He goes on like this podcast called Whatever, and he debates like OnlyFans, like act what do you call that? Professionals. I don't know what the term is for that, but he came
He
on,
debates
and
who? Who does he debate?
he debates OnlyFans professionals. You know what an
His
OnlyFans is, right?
fans.
OnlyFans is like
Porn
this kind of thing.
stars.
It's like adult film stuff where people do it on the internet. It's like real. It's to me, it's kind of weird stuff where
Where they have like
people,
their own web page or something that
yeah, like
they.
their own web videos that they sell content, and
Okay.
it's kind
Yeah.
of,
All right. Yeah. And
yeah,
he
it's
debates
adult
them.
content, huh?
Okay. So he debates them.
He debates them, but he also debates like atheists and other people. He was at Modern Day Debate, actually, at the
I've seen
one.
Modern Day Debate. As a matter of fact, I saw you on Modern Day Debate.
Very
You
funny.
debated. Was it David Wood? You
Yeah,
debated.
but he's
Not a
he's
good
like,
move. That's not a good career move. That was kind
really.
of like a no, no. That was just terrible. You just, uh,
I
if
already
somebody said,
discussed
"Hey,
this with
hey,
him.
Eckifer, if you want to debate David, I'm not debating David Wood. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I'm not debating. The guy's a genius. It's just not going to
Well,
happen."
he and I are actually best buddies now. We go. I think it was more like, it wasn't really a debate. It was more of like a conversation. We really got along, and we became like best friends. And I've gone on his channel a couple times, and we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about Sneeko and all kinds of things. And he's,
That's
you
all
know,
things to talk about. Why talk about Sneeko?
I
That
don't. That's what
you
we
guys
talk
are
about Israel.
scatterbrained.
We talk about Sneeko. I really like him a lot. I think he's a really good person. A lot of people are like, he's so bad, and I'm like, like other people, like maybe certain Muslims are like, he's such a bad guy. And I'm like, I think he's a really decent person. Like,
Who
I think
is?
he's very moral and ethical. And then, like, he got in trouble because he ate a piece of the Quran. And I'm like,
Who did?
David Wood did. He did
Oh
it
yeah,
on
that's
some
right.
own
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, I
I
mean, you're going to sit there and you're going to uh, desecrate Christ, and you're going to do it justifying that condemnation of Christ, or using the Quran. Yeah, I'm going to eat it too. He's lucky he didn't burn it.
well, actually, that's the appropriate way to dispose of the Quran, is by
No,
burning
don't
it.
say. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Good luck. Try that one. Go ahead.
Well,
Just
but I mean, but
see how far you
legalistically
get doing
speaking,
that.
well, and because a lot of people don't legal, it's like people are emotionally driven. They're not following the law, and I'm like, they're doing a very bad job in a lot of these apologetics. Honestly, like, when I see a lot of the Muslim apologists, I'm very disappointed by their work. It's very violent, and uh, you know, I'm just like, you're not going to win anybody to your perspective. But
Well, we're going to talk about some of
I hear that.
that Quranic inspired violence today when we start talking about the fruits. Okay, well,
Um, Oh, I
go
think
ahead.
one last thing I
You
was going to
close up.
say about that
Go ahead.
point. Yeah, so yeah, I've been on his channel, and I actually was on the channel when for the New Year's thing. So I was there for like multiple hours, and yeah, I think he's really just a nice guy. I saw him in person several times, and I think he's a really decent dude. And I think people get upset with him because they don't really know him. And I'm like, he's a person who really believes in Christianity. Like, you can have interfaith dialogue. Like, you have someone like Shabir Ali, you're going to have a normal conversation. But like if you have someone like Central Dawa, it's just I don't know. That's insane.
Well,
You
again,
know,
it's the focus of the two. I mean, with
yeah,
Shabir, it's more academically focused, where with Central Dawa, it's more insult oriented. How can I, uh, cook you type? It's childish. It's like that.
yeah.
What's that imam out in California that pretended that he got stabbed? What's his name?
Oh, you're talking about
Exhibit.
Usman Ibn Farouk.
There
He's
you go.
from
That guy, Ibn
Pakistan.
Farouk. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's that genre of people, and I get it, and he can, and he can hang with both of them. I mean, he can engage both of them at those levels, and that's I think that's one of
but
his many strengths.
they're not really scholars though. Like Shabir Ali is a scholar, and you could say, look, I disagree with Islam, and I think Christianity is the correct religion. There's ways that you can argue that civilly. Like when you even look at Ahmed Deedat and Zakir Naik, you can look at them like, yeah, they might be a little bit like ostentatious, but there's some kind of conversation that can exist. I don't think a lot, like particularly with Zakir Naik, I don't think he's really fair with his opponents. Like I don't think, yeah,
He's a joke. Him and his arguments a joke. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk
yeah,
about, or Rad's going to bring up tonight when we're
yeah.
talking about Yasser Qadi. I mean, if you look at the latest controversy on Yasser Qadi, which Rad's going to talk about here in a second, aren't you, Rad?
And
Yes.
one last thing I wanted to say about that point is that with Yasser Qadi, because I'm an academic, I'm actually looking into doing like a dissertation engaging the Islamic dilemma. I think it's an important conversation to have, academically speaking. Let's look at what these arguments are and really engage them, because a lot of these people who are trying to engage the Islamic dilemma, they're not academics, they're not scholars. None of
Mhm.
these people went to school. Like they're pseudo scholars. Like they come in and they're like,
True.
Yasser Qadi's not wrong. Dr. Joshua Little is not wrong. There's different ways that you can do critical analysis, and that's what we need to do with like if you hear like a Christian, what do you call it, apologist who's not a scholar, you're not going to look at the credibility of what they're saying if they didn't actually engage the scholarship. You know what I mean? You're not going to look at that like a William James. What was his
Well,
name?
this was the
William
conversation Rad and I were having
James Craig.
prior to the show, um, concerning the latest videos, because everybody and their brothers all over this supposed controversy that he's stirring up again. It's kind of similar to his holes in the narrative back in 2020, where he said that this idea that perfect preservation really isn't airtight like everybody has said it was, and it caused all this apostasy and uproar within the Islamic community. And this is about. But the thing was, is he was telling the truth,
There's
and
nothing wrong with that.
The same thing is here he's being honest with the facts and the way scholarship is done. It's just that this dogmatic approach to Islamic polemics and apologetics has become so enshrouded in this idea of selective facts or invented facts that they use. And once you start pinning them down on these facts, for example, corruption of the Bible, once you start pinning them down on it and asking for evidence of it, their arguments fall apart. And this is what Yasser Qadi is pointing out when you start talking about the veracity of the Hadith literature. It's just non-existent. And as a matter of fact, I did a little bit of work on that. So, Isa, we're praying for you, brother.
Amen.
You and your
Thank you.
mom. And I just had this random thought. Think of this as an opportunity when you're not on Kylox anyway. Think of this as an opportunity be given some thought, jotting down some notes about that dissertation that you just mentioned, and maybe ordering them, and and putting together your ideas, and possible sources that you might, that would be, I don't know, that would be a good use of your time, since you can't get up and run, walk about because you got a broke leg. I mean, you got a broke face. I mean, nobody's going to want to see, they see you coming down the hall. I'm going to the other side. It's not
You're cute.
funny, but it's
But
funny. We love you, and we're just dogging you out.
I
Uh,
wanted to say one last thing about what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is really important. Honestly speaking, and this is like my last point on this thing. It's like I think when we're looking at these conversations, I've really liked listening to Chris at Speaker's Corner and God Logic. I've listened to their arguments. I think it's very important to be look at the use critical theory. I think this is we have to be fair and honest. And every time I hear that the Torah, the Zabur, and the Injil are corrupted, it's so illogical and rational to me. You're going to have to figure out another mechanism. You can say,
mhm.
well, maybe I spiritually affirm it, but I don't literally follow it like a Baha'i maneuver. You would have to do something like that. But if you're going to try to take a position where you're going to say it's false, then I'm like, what you do, and I put this in my first, I think I sent you my first paper on this. What you do is you create like basically a theological hellscape where what you do is you're accusing God of weakness. You basically say, well, God allowed for these texts to be corrupted. You have to do so much damage. The damage control that you get for trying to say, well, the Quran is great, you create so much further damage that it's like irreparable when you try to say these texts are corrupted. You're saying that God can't protect God's texts. You're saying that God is ignorant, God is not omniscient, God is not omnipotent, or you're saying God is wicked and a manipulator. You That is the choices you're making by taking this position. So you might sound good, you might win a battle, but you've lost the war. It's an epic devastation to take that position. And I agree with Yasser Qadi about the ahadith. The ahadith are very, very complex. Dr. Joshua Little has a dissertation on it, and I think that's something you probably want to look into as well. That there's anachronistic elements, like you see things that are in the hadith that are not even from the time of the 7th
Sure.
century.
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
the Quran also. Don't forget the Quran. I mean, the Quran has all kinds of anachronisms within itself too.
and I think, see, it's a little bit harder to attack the Quran for a Muslim believer.
No,
I
it's
think
not. Not when you're using this. When you're using the same standard. If you're going to use the same standard for the saying that the ahadith literature is anachronistic or has anachronistic stories in it, the same thing with the Quran. Joseph being sold into slavery for coins. Coins didn't exist in 1800 BC.
yeah,
David using King David 1000 BC having chainmail. Chainmail wasn't invented until
yeah.
the 6th century BC by the Celts. Um, the use of crucifixion in the court of Pharaoh during the time of Joseph, time of Moses. Crucifixion wasn't invented by them. So
No,
when
no,
you
no.
start,
I completely understand and I agree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is what a Muslim practitioner has to do with that, because it's not easy to dismiss the Quran. They'll have to like spiritually interpret it and say, well, this is it's not necessarily literally telling history. It's just kind of giving certain kind of imagery of telling a narrative. You have to do some other type of technique to
well, everything,
engage that.
all
That's
these
all I'm saying
arguments,
for that.
well, and I get it, and
You get what I'm trying to
all
say,
these things
right?
I have rescuing
Yeah.
devices for
A
them, and
rescuing device. That's what I'm talking about. You would have to utilize another kind of reconciliation
that's what
restorative
they, yeah,
device.
and they've become very well versed in doing that. And when they do that, and their rescuing devices are challenged and analyzed, not so much. Okay, my brother.
All right,
Um,
please continue. I will turn my camera off, and I will be
okay, if
supporting.
you
I'll
want
be
to
the
chime
supporting cast.
in, as long as you're not under the influence of
I
the
I'm not under the influence.
oxycontin or whatever they're going to be feeding you here.
I am here, brother. I will just turn my camera off, and I am will participate when
Okay, prayers
the
for you
time
and your
rushes
mom.
up.
Okay.
Thank you. Amen. Appreciate you.
All right. So, uh, everybody that I would ask and covet for Isa, even if he's not coveting themselves, his prayers for his healing, not only physically but also, these kind of things are very traumatic. Um, and it's obviously he's gonna change his lifestyle here for at least a little while. And he didn't say anything about any type of permanent damage. Um, when you injure parts of your body, I can attest to this. It's just a slow recovery, and like my arm, I can't, I it's just the way it is. So whenever it happens, unfortunately for him, he's just a spring chicken, sort of a little bit. I don't know how old he is. I'm not going to point it out, but um, keep him in your prayers, and him and his mother too. Okay, Mr. Radical Moderate, I see you finally got an avatar, which is only took you, and you're the computer tech guy too, which is really surprising.
Well,
how do I get an avatar on my screen? How am I supposed to know how you get an avatar? That's you. That is your lane, dude.
well, I had the avatar the whole time. I just didn't have it set up right. So anyway, we figured it out thanks to Issa. But anyway, so let me make this bigger screen. I think see if that comes any better.
Okay, so let's go ahead and you go ahead and give a little background about what we're talking about here. On who is this? Whose show is this guy? Who is it? Or is this the actual show?
I don't know. Yeah, so this is like some skepticism Islamica. I don't know. They're like basically like PhD students that study Islam. I don't know. I guess they claim to be Muslim. I don't know. But it's funny, the Muslim responses to this, the one thing they're all doing is they're all blurring out this woman's face because, of course, you can't show the face. But anyway, this is like after an hour conversation on Salafism, okay, on Salafi. Because remember, Yasser Qadi said he was a Salafi, but then he wasn't a Salafi, but now he is a Salafi again. He kind of flip-flops on this, so I don't know what his position is. But it was an overall conversation on Salafism, which is basically taking the literal interpretation, okay? If Allah says he's got a right hand, he's got a right hand.
Right.
It doesn't, you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So we're talking about this, but she asked this question. It's actually a very long question, but it's basically, regarding the hadith. And she goes on, she says, Western academia, we have very skeptical approach to the hadith corpus and its ability to tell us anything about the prophet and actually what he did and said, which appears to be diametrically opposed to the Salafist theological emphasis on the hadith canon. How do you think this sort of academic scholarship and also its increasing accessibility to lay believers will affect or influence the continued development of the Salafi or past Salafi thought that is very, so then he comes in, that is a very difficult question, that's what we'll play it for you. But here we go, let me know if you can hear it. Let me know if you can hear it.
Difficult question.
Yep.
You hear that? Okay, here we go.
Because it's very sensitive, and because there's no easy answer, and because we are witnessing this in live time. It's a very difficult question. And it is a question that I myself am grappling with at a personal level, at a believing level, and as an academic, and as a preacher and teacher. Without a doubt, studying Islam in the madrasa and then studying in the academy has shaped me. And I've spoken about this in a lot more detail. I have a lecture online, if you're interested. It's called Between the Madrasa and the Academy. And I go over and I highlight that there's good and bad in both. And one of our problems is that most people in the madrasa and most people in the academy are refusing to acknowledge the good of the other. And they only concentrate on the negatives of the other. And as somebody who's lived in both and is still involved to this day in both, I still attend, AMJA conferences I'm presenting and the other conferences I attend, and I still present papers, and I just published a book. This is my monograph. Had I still been in the academy, this would have got me my professorship. Alhamdulillah, I don't need to do that. I resigned. I resigned because of the pressure in the academy. I resigned because I can't speak about Israel in the academy. I resigned because my morality is subjugated to public opinion.
Of course, got to attack Jews, but hold on, let's continue.
And polls. I can't preach in the mosque if I'm a member of the academy. My preaching of the mosque will impact my position in the academy. That's nonsensical to the academy, but that is the reality, right? So I am not a fan of creating animosity between these two strands. I actually believe it is important that both of them recognize that each one has much to offer the other.
Okay, so here's where now he's going to contradict himself, and this is what he always does. So you heard this. He said that each one has something to offer. The Academy, which is the Western scholarly thing, and the Orientalists or the Islamic thing on the Hadith. Are you following this? He's actually saying that they can be they can offer good to each other. Okay, they can simultaneously exist, and you can basically get a Hegelian what do you call it? A synthesis of the two. Okay, all right. So this is what he's pretty much arguing. But now, listen to the flip flop here, and here it comes. See, this is very subtle.
Well, see, okay, let's make sure that we understand the position that he is in. In order to, because in a madrasa, the only thing that they are told to do in a madrasa is memorize. They're not told to analyze. They're not told to. You can't question the validity of the sources. You just memorize and regurgitate. That is not an education.
Right.
So what he is trying to do is he's trying to synthesize two completely different things and trying to thread this needle that is impossible to do, because you're talking about two. It's like saying that, communism and capitalism can coexist in one country. It cannot. You have two completely different opposing views, and he's trying to synthesize it. So I want to see. I haven't seen this, so I want to hear how he tries to do it.
Okay, so exactly. So that's what he's trying to do. And he actually says when he starts it, he says the problem is that that both sides, the Academy and the Islamic part of it, sees only what's bad in both sides. Okay, and he's so this whole part is he's trying to synthesize, but he also says he can't speak honestly in the masjid because of Israel. Okay, all right. So he can't express his true views on Western civilization and Israel and all that stuff, or be thrown out of the academy or lose his professorship, which, as Dr. Jonathan Brown just found out. Did you hear about that, Eric?
No.
Okay, Dr. Jonathan Brown at Georgetown University, head of the Department of Islamic Studies. Yeah, he said that Iran should bomb Iraq, military bases in Iraq. Okay, after we bombed them. And that pretty much did it for him. He's been suspended as a chair. He's under investigation.
This is you said this is Georgetown University?
Yeah, he teaches the spooks. He teaches the spies.
Is this the same guy that wrote the dissertation on the Hadith literature and saying that was nothing but trash? Is that the same?
No. This is the guy that said that Aisha was 9 years old. That's that guy. So you don't know Jonathan Brown? Yeah. So he's the guy that. He's kind of a hipster, kind of Islamicist, Salafi. His wife, he married her father as a terrorist that had to be deported from the United States of America because of his terrorist support of Hamas, actually, I believe.
And this guy is a professor at Georgetown.
Not just a professor, he's the head of the department at Georgetown University.
The head of the department head of what studies? Islamic studies? Or?
Islamic and Middle East studies. History and
and they have that because they've received so much petrodollar money from the Saudis, I'm sure.
Yeah. And in case you guys don't know, Georgetown University is like where they teach the upper echelon of State Department officers, aka CIA cops. Okay, not the operators.
Well, so Georgetown is located. I mean, it's located right there in DC, or right or next to DC.
Yeah. This is where our elites come from in Washington D.C. This is where the children of the elites go. You know what I mean? This is serious stuff.
When the Queen and I were up there for the inauguration, we were leaving. We were leaving, and we went through Georgetown University to get to the subway, and many of the students were Asian. It just seemed like there was a disproportionate number of Asians that were.
That's because they got a lot of China money,
Yeah, so
the whole thing's been infiltrated.
That's probably what it was. Hate to say it, but truth sucks sometimes. Go ahead.
So basically, just to recap real quick, he's saying that both Western science, skeptical science, and Islamic science, quote unquote, can coexist. They can learn from each other, feed off each other, synthesize with each other, learn from each other, become basically something better. Okay.
No, they can't. But okay,
yeah,
I want to hear what he said.
Okay, so here we go. Listen to this.
And I speak as somebody who's traversed both of them and respects both of them. There are also areas where we're going to have to agree to disagree. And we should be brave enough to just acknowledge it and move on. The origin of the Quran is one of them. I am a Muslim. When I'm preaching and teaching, I will use the Quran as evidence. End of story. When I'm presenting an academic paper, I understand for my audience, the Quran is not an evidence. I understand this. Doesn't mean I don't believe it in my life, but I will not then use it in the same way. And I'll become third person. Well, the Quran states this, whereas,
Okay, the reason why you cannot use, for example, you can use in an academic setting, you can use the Bible as a means of validating historical events. You can use that in an academic setting, whereas in the Quran, you can't use the Quran as a means to validate historical events. And one of the things that we keep pointing to here on this show is the existence of Mecca in the 7th century. It's just not there. And then the conversation we were just having with Isa, as far as the anachronisms that are contained within the Quran itself. You cannot, and Yasser Qadi clearly understands it, because if they were to try to use the Quran as some sort of validation of a historical event or point, or to establish one, then that means that you have to source the Quran as a valid attestation or as valid evidence, and you cannot do that. Why? Because then you would have to defend it, and they don't want to defend it in academia. Well, I wouldn't want to have to defend it outside of academia, but within academia itself, you cannot defend it. If you tried to source the Quran as some type of citation within a peer-reviewed article that you're trying to publish, you would get laughed out. You would get laughed out of the academy, just like Yasser Qadi is pointing out here. And people can't take that. And that's why everybody's fearing this guy. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, yeah. So let's listen to some more, because I want to make another point as well.
Okay.
Let's listen to some more.
Lecture, I'll say Allah says. It's the same thing, but how you phrase it and the utilization is going to be slightly different. So in some areas, we're going to have to agree to disagree. As you're aware, and I think you have in your channel interviewed such people as well, many of the modern academics love to discuss the origin of the Quran, right? Of like the parallels of other, like the Alexander story, other stories, right? And their goal here, even if it's not explicit, is very clear. Their goal is to illustrate that the Prophet ﷺ was very crafty, very ingenious, that he tapped into all of these legends and then he constructed the Quran, right? That is an inherent bias of the Western Academy, because they're refusing to acknowledge the theological presumption that we have. And that is, the Quran is inspiration from Allah. I believe this. And therefore, that type of talk will just not resonate with me, because I'm not. So we have to agree to disagree. Hadith is another area. We're going to have to agree to disagree. There is no, now I hope there is, but as of yet, as somebody who's my undergraduate was in the College of Hadith. So I specialized, and it is said, and I'm not just saying because I'm a graduate, this was the well-known reality, that the College of Hadith in the University of Medina in the 90s and the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they've changed it now. It was considered to be the most advanced study of hadith at the undergraduate level in the entire world. And as somebody who went through that and has talked to other people from other institutes, I would very much agree with that, the amount of studying that we did. So what I'm trying to say is I've studied hadith inside out. I have ijazat more than I do. I forgot how many I have. I have plenty of ijazat. And I've also studied the historical critical method. In fact, for a period of my life, my second year of Yale, before I decided Ibn Taymiyyah, I really wanted to write a PhD on the isnad analysis and basically a Muslim defense of it, which would have been utilizing the historical critical method. So anyway, my point being, I'm well aware.
Whoa.
My
Hold on. he's going to use the historical critical method to analyze the veracity of the isnad.
Mhm. Just remember, wait. So okay, wait. So this is after he did the intensive study of the hadith at Islamic University in Saudi Arabia, Medina. Okay, all right. So he goes to Yale as a now graduate student, and it's in the second year. He was up until the second year. He was going to do this, and I think he figured out that he couldn't do it. It would be laughed out, or was probably told by his professors, "We're not going to accept that." You know what I mean? As a paper. Okay, so that's when he did his thesis on. Well, so he said he did his thesis on Ibn Taymiyyah. Okay, he had to switch it up. But let's get this. So remember, this is on the Hadith now. Okay, and this is what he's going into. But let's listen a little bit further, and you'll see what they're really going to be mad at. Here we go.
Preliminary conclusion, and please, audience, understand, I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. My preliminary conclusion is there is no middle ground. And historical.
You hear that? So he was going to do his thesis, his PhD thesis, okay, on the Ishnad of the Quran using the historical method of Western academia, and then he realized there is no middle ground. Remember, he was saying basically there is a middle ground in the two things with the Quran or whatever, okay? Right. That, you can synthesize, whatever. We can learn from each other. Here he says there is no middle ground when it comes to the Hadith. Well, there is no middle ground.
What's interesting about this is do you know who Gary Habermas is?
I've heard the name. But go ahead.
Okay, he's written several books on the resurrection, on the crucifixion.
Oh, right, yeah.
Very prolific author, very prolific speaker, and he has spoken extensively on his doctoral dissertation and the criteria that was used in order for him to his dissertation was on the resurrection, the crucifixion and the resurrection, and the professors that were I don't know what you would that were overlooking or supervising his dissertation said that if you want to do it on the crucifixion and the resurrection, that's fine, but you can't use the Bible. You have to go outside the Bible to demonstrate this. And he did. Here, Yasser Qadi, he's being told that if you are going to do a master's thesis or a dissertation on the Hadith literature and the veracity of it, you cannot just use the Hadith literature saying that, the science of the Hadith literature says that it's true and that these isnads can be trusted and that we know that they can be trusted because they say that they can be trusted. You can't do that. You have to use some type of external attestation to demonstrate their veracity. And he's admitting here, this is the admittance right here that you can't do it. It's not.
It's his conclusion.
It's made up. It's like doing academics in Disneyland.
Yep, he said it's his conclusion. There is no middle ground. But let's play a little bit more. But now you see the problem. Let's play a little bit more.
Yeah, I see it clearly. It's obvious.
Critical method and isnad analysis.
Yeah, there is no middle ground between critical analysis and ishnad science or whatever they call it.
Sure.
Let me rewind a little bit. So what was that? 145. Let's go here. Here we go.
And if I'm wrong, please correct me. My preliminary conclusion is there is no middle ground. And historical critical method and isnad analysis are two diametrically opposed ways of looking at early Islam and reports, and I don't find much commonality between them as of yet. Obviously in small areas here, but overall, two diametrically opposed epistemologies. That having been said, therefore, one will have to navigate the religious side of things if you are a believing Sunni, Hadith believer, in a different epistemology. And when you are arguing in the academic world, you'll have to use a different epistemology. So in some areas, there's good, healthy overlap. In some areas, we'll politely agree to disagree. And in some areas, they're diametrically opposed. This is my...
Okay, so in other words,
diametrically opposed in the Ishnad. Okay, so let me just finish up with this. So in other words, I see he says, okay, if you're believing Sunni, okay, you can believe in this, but you can't prove it in Western academia. In other words, it is unprovable. We do not know. We cannot use the historical critical method to dissect and look on Nazi and Islam. In other words, they don't know. They cannot know. In other words, the Hadith, he basically broke the chains. Remember Muslims say, we have unbroken chains of narration. Like David Wood brought up. Like, really? So you're telling me someone who's making up a Hadith cannot make up the names that go with that Hadith? I mean, seriously, you say these people are that stupid? You're forging a Hadith, so you can't sit there and say, well, and just borrow someone else's Ishnad that they already agree on. You know what I mean? Okay. I mean,
I know exactly. I have a not an allegory, but an equivalent to this. If I'm trying to establish the existence and truthfulness of who Superman was, and my evidence for that are the plethora of comic books written on him, and I use them as that. You're going to get laughed out of academia. The same thing is true here. He's talking about something that number one is, as we've already spoken about, is anachronistic. It's internally contradictory, and it relies completely on oral transmission that has obviously changed when you read and analyze the traditions within the Hadith literature. For an example, the earliest Hadith literature will have a saying that has maybe 2 or 3 sentences in it, where that same tradition that is quoted later in the Hadith literature will have 5 and 6. So there's been some additions to the sayings of these isnads as you progress through the literature. So there's no way that you can use these things to demonstrate their authenticity or their veracity. And it's the same thing with a comic book. You can't say that, Wonder Woman existed because she's in a comic book, because that's all the Hadith literature is, comic book quality, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Let's listen a little more. I think that's it, but let's just listen a little more.
Okay.
Make sure.
All right.
Preliminary analysis, and I would love to be proven wrong, and I would love for somebody to come and say, no, you are absolutely incorrect, and we can prove hadith via the historical critical method, and this is how we do it. And I would literally thank that person and be the first to buy the book and love to see it. As of yet, though, I'm a little bit pessimistic, and I don't see there to be much of a commonality. So we're going to have to simply say, if you believe in that the Sunnah has been preserved via the Hadith, you're going to have to follow a certain epistemology, a certain paradigm. And if you are, as you're aware, and you're an academic channel.
So basically, if you want to become a believing Muslim, when you walk in the masjid, you have to put on your Islam cap. And then if you want to actually be an academic and learn things, when you go into university, you have to take off that Islamic hat and learn academic. You know what I mean? So basically, he's like saying you got to be double weighted. You got to be double minded. Okay, you can't live your true authentic self. The same. But also notice here at the end, he's challenging. He's like, look, I would love to. Please, please challenge me. Please prove me wrong on this, because I would love this. I would buy your book. Please do this. He's calling out to the ummah of the Muslims. Please do this. And after you comment, Eric, if Isa wants to chime in on any of this, yeah, I'll show you some of what the Muslims have responded with.
Okay, so there was a couple things that I wanted to point out about the Hadith literature, and I was just going into Chat GGP to ask, because I had asked this: what is the oldest extant copy of Sahih al-Bukhari? And the reason why I'm asking this is, let's see, Bukhari, oldest extant manuscripts, dated in, okay, so that would be the 4th century AH or 10th century. And I would even call BS on that too. 10th century is 900s, and that is, 100 years removed from Bukhari himself. Wait a second. Let's see. Okay, that's 10th and 11th century is in Damascus. I take that back, so it's another 100 years. Okay, the point that I was making is that this Hadith literature, they talk about this tradition that was established at the time of Muhammad back in the 7th century, that he would say things and do certain things. So they would say, so and so saw the Muhammad or the prophet say, or heard the prophet say, or saw the Muhammad or the prophet do X, Y, and Z, and that was so and so said so and so said so and so said so and so. So you have this chain of narration, this oral tradition, and I'm not completely throwing oral tradition under the bus. However, when as compared to a written tradition, the written tradition is always far superior. But this oral tradition that was developed, it was developed at the time of the Umayyad Caliphate, and this is when Islam was headquartered in Baghdad. Baghdad at this time had a large population of Jews, and at this time, Jews were compiling the Talmudic literature. So the Muslims are seeing the Jews do this, so they therefore think that they need to have an equivalent. So they start compiling and publicizing this Hadith literature. Bukhari lives in 870, or dies in, or let's see, he's said to have written his collection in 870 AD. Number one, Muhammad dies in 632 AD. So this is 200 and what is that? 38 years removed. 48? No, 38. 38 years removed. 238 years removed from the time that Muhammad lived. He compiles this collection of Ahadith literature. How in the Hades do you know if it's true or not? But let's just go with this, okay? The oldest extant copy of Bukhari is the 11th century. So you're talking from 632, 632 to the time that Muhammad dies, to the 11th century before we even have a copy of what Muhammad said or did. The earliest copy. Sahih Muslim, 875 AD, earliest copy, 10th century. So we're talking at least 100 years removed from him, 300 years, over 300 years removed from the death of Muhammad, before we have anything in writing about this. And this is what really gets in my crawl when Muslims say, "Oh, well, you don't have the copies of the Bible. You don't have the original copies." Shut your pie hole, for goodness sakes, you hypocrite! Look at your own writings.
Well, there's also a problem because, sorry to interrupt, but there's a problem too because the Sunni creed says you have to believe in the Bible. Like, I don't care. Like, when I hear these Salafis and Wahhabis keep telling us that you don't need the text, I'm like, Islam is foundational on the Hebrew scriptures, and that's the Torah, the Psalms, and the Evangelion. They're all Hebrew scriptures. I'm including the New Testament too, because this is, Hebrew writings. And I'm like, you can't erase any of it. It's a part of the corpus. If Islam is a continuation,
that's the dilemma, is it not?
If you take a literalist path, you're pretty much done. Yeah, you're cooked. You unless you do some creative Baha'i type of stuff, you have to do something a little more creative if you want to escape that. But it's much harder. It's much more difficult. But if you're taking a literalist approach, there is no escape. I agree. Like, if you're taking a Salafi approach, you can't escape it. That's why they're claiming phantom texts. They're like, well, the text used to exist, it doesn't exist. And I did this in my paper, and I said it. I'm like, we have Stella, and I love that we have a historian here, that are 3,000 years old. we can find ancient things that are preserved. So if you're arguing that all of these texts, that the texts are destroyed, you should be able to find an original source text, especially if they're holy texts from God. You should find an original one somewhere. So when I hear this, I'm like, I'm
I wouldn't
sorry,
say that they would
I'm a
need to find
scholar
an
and an
original. They would
academic.
need to find a more recent copy of it
You're right. You need to find
that
a more. You need to find an
validates their points.
you need to find an ancient text, and you need to find a more modern text, and then compare them and show the differences. The arguments they usually make are they attack translations, they attack the King James Bible. I'm like, that's a British translation of the text. So like, if I could say Muhammad Assad, Yusuf, what's his name, Yusuf Islam, or Yusuf, you know who I'm talking about, the Yusuf,
The translator,
yeah, the
Yusuf Ali,
Yusuf Ali. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a little fried. Yusuf Ali, Muhammad Assad,
you're in the Kylock again. Stay off of that stuff
silly.
now.
Yusuf Ali, Muhammad Assad. There's the British, the ancient Muhammad Pickthall. If you look at, there's so many different
Mushikan. I
translations.
mean, you have all these different type
So
translations.
I mean, that's the comparison. Comparing King James, ESV, American translation. That's an adequate comparison. But these folks don't even know that. They don't even know that there are translations of the Quran. It looks like. I'm like, you don't know there's a difference between Muhammad Ali versus Muhammad Pickthall? They're very different. They have very different ways that they translate the terms. So I'm like, and it's very different styles, different kinds of perspectives
Well,
that are focused on.
You said they don't know these things because the only thing that they're taught is how to criticize the Bible. They cannot, number one, these criticisms that they're taught are incorrect. Number one, but number two, when the same applications that they use to criticize the Bible, you use a mirror and direct that back towards their Quran, they have no idea. You know, they have no idea about their own hypocrisy. Oftentimes, they don't realize what big hypocrites they truly are by trying to make arguments, just like you said.
Yeah, and I think academics are super important and critical. Like I've spent most of my life in academia, and I studied religion through an academia lens. And so when they discard this, like that is something that's like really grotesque to me, where they're like, "I'm so smart and intelligent." I'm like, "No, you're a good rhetorician. You're not actually intelligent. You know how to talk well, but you don't. You're not a scholar. Like you are a scholar, Eric. Like you went to school." You spent years learning, you wrote a dissertation, you put effort, and that's why. And then like they try to insult academics, and I'm like, well, why are you qualified? Just because you wear a costume and you're loud, and crude, like, and rude, your crudeness and rudeness doesn't make you
Well, that's the
have value in
qualifications that
scholarship.
these guys have. I mean, that's the only qualifications that these guys have is that they put on this little costume. I mean, it's like trying to argue Disney movies with these guys using comic books. I mean, it's just silly. You know,
They have a beard. They have a
got their
YouTube
little
channel
kufi and they got their
and a
little
following. That's all
dresses.
they
Okay,
need.
let me just touch on a couple more of these hadith traditions. If you go to Ibn Majah, which was supposed to be written at 887, that is, what is that, 235 years after Muhammad, something like that. No, 87 minus 52 is 85, 50, 800 or 250 years after the death of Muhammad. Um, the oldest copy, let's see here, the oldest copy of that one is supposedly 950 AD, but I don't even believe that. I would have, but Al Nasi was written in 915. Al Nasi 915 AD. The oldest extant copy is 1140. They date it to 1144, which would be an entire 500 years after the death of Muhammad, supposed death of Muhammad. Tirmidhi, written in 892. His is 1140. Maybe I had that backwards. 1147. Okay, and this is 1145. And the oldest extant copy is 1145, located in the Netherlands. So as you can see, even the oldest, most popular traditions of this hadith literature that he's throwing out there, the oldest copies that we have are still centuries removed from the authors, who are centuries removed from Muhammad. And yet we're supposed to accept it. Muslims are supposed to accept it without question and follow it because their eternal soul is dependent upon it. The Straight Path. I got a book here called The Straight Path. I ain't gonna go looking for it, but it's called The Straight Path, and it was a book that I was required to use when I was taking in my undergraduate studies for history. I was taking a course on Middle East history, and in this it says the straight path is the path that Muslims have to follow in order to attain eternal salvation, and that is to follow the Sunnah of Muhammad. Well, how do you follow the Sunnah of Muhammad? You can't do it by the Quran, because it doesn't tell you hardly anything that Muhammad did in the Quran. Well, it tells you a couple things that aren't very flattering about him, but the main things that they have to do in order to attain eternal salvation are located in the Hadith literature. A Hadith literature that are the earliest copies that we have are 400 and 500 years removed. It is a impossible academic conundrum and theological conundrum, an eternal conundrum to place yourself into, and to sit there and attack Christianity constantly, saying that you can't trust the Gospels because we don't have the originals, or the originals are, the earliest date that we have of the Gospel is the Ryland manuscript, P52, and that's dated like 125, but it's written on papyrus, which is it's a miracle that thing exists anyway. It's a miracle that any of those papyri exist. But we'd still have several hundred fragments of the New Testament that predate the complete New Testament that we have in the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus, and those are the first half of the 4th century documents, and the Alexandrinus 5th century. So we still have complete works that are closer to the life of Christ than what Muslims do with the Hadith literature. It's a joke. Okay.
All right. So real quickly here, I just want to play a little bit of just some of the Muslim responses to Yasser Qadhi's challenge to basically prove him wrong. You ready for this?
Yep. Let's go.
There we go.
10 minutes. We got
plenty of time.
I was given the 10-minute warning. We have things we got to do tonight. Sorry.
Right, here
we go. Self-admiring neophyte of
start that
human,
again.
Yasser Qadhi.
We didn't have the beginning. Okay, now number one. Who is this clown?
This is Abu Musab.
Abu Musab.
He's a dude. He was. I don't know where he's at now, but he was a former rapper. He's of Lebanese origin. They're all former rappers.
Wow, look at all the books he has.
Yeah. But anyway, he's
different
in
colors.
Saudi Arabia.
Nice. Wow.
He went to the same university, whatever. But he works, he's like some kind of Samsung retailer or something like that in Saudi Arabia, or he works for a outlet of Samsung, I think, or something like that. Anyway, in Saudi Arabia. But anyway, he's a well-known dogwadness or whatever on YouTube. Okay, he gives lectures all the time. Anyway, but yeah, so here's his response, and this is, here we go. Take a listen.
The wicked, evil, disruptive, unhinged, self-egoistic, self-admiring neophyte of a human, Yasser Qadhi. May Allah Azza wa Jal destroy him, and may Allah destroy his da'wah, and may Allah destroy his platform, and may Allah not allow his voice to be heard, or his pen to write, or his keyboard to type a single matter pertaining to the deen.
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, a little bit. Here we go.
Criminal who continues his mission of disparaging Islam and undermining Islam, belittling Islam's foundations, casting doubt into the minds of the Muslims, appeasing to the so-called intellectuals and the academics, posing as a person of knowledge, posing as a scholar, thinking that he's some special breed of humans. Whereas by Allah, if you were to look at his face, just by merely looking at him, he's automatically disqualified from being a person of knowledge. Just by his mere appearance,
I
you
think
cannot
it's
even put him
same
with the people
haircut.
of knowledge.
Look at that. I mean,
Let alone his demeanor, let alone his statements, let alone his position.
Even the way he looks disqualifies him as a person of the knowledge.
And
What
why
does
is he a
this guy look
scholar?
like?
Why is this gentleman a scholar? I mean, that's my question. What makes him a scholar?
He went to Medina University,
The
same as
books that he
Yasser
has
Khan.
in the
That's
book
it?
that he has in the background. Just
And
as
how-
my pigs in the
how do we know it's not a
background make
paper
me
mill?
a capper, his books make him a scholar, don't you see?
Yeah,
And does he have a bachelor's degree? Does he have like so my problem with these people like this is like, when you go to seminary, it doesn't matter what religion you are. If you go to seminary, you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, like if you're going to a legitimate seminary, you have to go to like academic seminary that's accredited. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to a seminary right now. I'm going to I'm going to Capstone University. And it's an accredited university with accredited professors, you know what I mean? And I have to write a 100-page dissertation. Like it's legitimate, you know what I'm saying? And the reason why you need accreditation is because it proves that you know what you're talking about. You have to have a standard. So you can go to schools, you could go to like Bible school or Islam school online and just, pay money and do a few quizzes and stuff, and they give you a certificate or a diploma, but that doesn't mean that you're qualified to do this. There's different sciences and skills. Like you can have a legitimate Islamic university that's accredited with PhD professors that are teaching classes. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And like this guy doesn't sound like someone who's like went to any accredited university and has any scholarship.
He went to the same university that Yasser Qadi. I don't know if he graduated.
Yasser Qadi went to Yale, though. Yasser Qadi went to Yale.
Okay, but Yasser Qadi went to I believe he was saying that he went to the University of Medina, and
That's
this
where
is
he
what
went.
with this guy. They both went to the University of Medina, which is probably the most prestigious university when it comes to studying Hadith literature. That's the claim. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the claim. Yasser Qadi continued his studies in the United States at the postgraduate level at Yale. I believe he got his master's and his PhD at Yale. I'm willing to be wrong on that. I know he got the PhD at Yale. I don't know if he got a master's from there. So the undergraduate studies, even in undergraduate studies is essential in laying the foundation for the methodology in which you do graduate work. Not just the methodology, but also a foundational understanding of the work that you're going to do at the advanced levels. For an example,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I took a class in Usul Fiqh, which is like jurisprudence. I took a graduate level class in jurisprudence. My teacher was actually a classmate of Yasser Qadi. They're both Pakistani, and they were there. And he was a classmate of Yasser Qadi. And they actually did real scholarship. And I think it's cool. Go to like an Islamic university as one of your degrees. That's great. But you need to have a modern academic degree too, because you can't be in an echo chamber. These kind of like, think about this. Like,
a lot of these, I would kind of disagree with that. And here's why. Because a lot of the theological seminaries, when you get Dallas Theological Seminary, Liberty University, places like that, in order to attend that university, you have to sign a statement of faith that you believe the Bible, and the Bible is the inherent word of God. I'm not exactly sure how it's all worded, in order to study at those universities. Now, are those universities echo chambers? I would say absolutely not. And the reason why is because you have the right, you have academic freedoms at those universities, even though you have to sign a statement of faith that you are a Christian and that you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and all the things that come along with that. But you can question the Bible. This is how they have courses and the advanced entire programs on textual criticism and you can do that there. Here in his undergraduate studies, you can't do that. They'll cut your head off for daring to question whether or not it's from God or not, or what you can question the compilers or the scholars of old. So this is, and I agree with you as far as they don't have that basis to challenge what they're being taught, or they don't have that academic freedom at the undergrad level, which is important to challenge what they're being taught and
So
the evidences that they're using for it.
yeah, so real quick because you got to go. I just want to play the end of it. So he goes on for like 7 minutes of this, right? Just
Send me this link, Brad, if you could,
yeah,
please.
Sure. Just cursing out Yasser Qadi. But let's play like the last few seconds of this because
Okay, we got to go after this.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to be deceived the second time around. So you make dua that Allah removes him from the da'wah map. We don't want harm upon him physically.
Okay, remove him from the Dawa map. Blah blah curses him, criminal. Blah blah blah. Listen. But they don't want no harm coming to him. Why not? Listen.
What a hypocrite!
Listen to this. No harm coming to him. But listen to this. Wait. Let me rewind it just a little bit here. So it's 709. Let's go with 707. Okay, here we go. Listen.
Harm upon him physically. He's a Muslim at the end of the day. We hope he's still a Muslim at this point. Wallahi, we hope he's still a Muslim at this point. I don't know, really. Not much to justify his Islam. But in order not to fall into takfir, we will hold back. We don't wish harm upon him, but I beg Allah that he's no longer part of the da'wah at all. That we don't ever have to hear another opinion of his.
Okay, so real quick, I didn't play the one part where he says that. Oh, this is another thing. He says that you're supposed to err on the side of grace, but he doesn't use that word, the side of grace with people. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But then he says this other thing. But no, Yasser Qadi, we do not give him the benefit of the doubt. This man is evil. We do not give what's his name, Muhammad Hijab, the benefit of the doubt. He is evil. We do, goes on and stuff. But then he's like, we don't want any harm to come to him because he's still a Muslim. Wait a second. You called the man a criminal. You called the man evil. You called the man vile. You called the man disgusting. You called him every name in the book, okay? And called down Allah's curses, just not on him, but on his pen, on his keyboard, on his tongue, on his entire life, on his entire family, okay? I mean, seriously, you asked that he be removed, okay? All right, but then you say he's still a Muslim. How does that logic work, dude? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, this is just totally funny, the reaction. But he's not the only. There are others. They're not handling this well. And I would say, in conclusion, they're handling this worse than the holes in the narrative. They're handling this much more worse. You know why? Because he's attacking their idol, their Muhammad. Mm-hmm. He's saying we cannot believe anything about Muhammad, our idol. Totally different. That's why they're reacting this way.
Yeah, and now that you've presented all this, I have a much better understanding of what's going on with this controversy. I didn't realize it was as serious as what it is, and I guess this is why people like Thaddeus and David and God Logic and everybody is bringing this up, saying, look what Yasser Qadi is saying again. We can't we can't use the hadith literature in academics anymore, and that's I don't see how they could have used it before. And I think he's just basically telling them something that they didn't know, and it's really upsetting them, saying that, look, the sources that you guys use for this literature, this genre that you guys, this entire genre that you have to make up your theological suppositions is trash. Who was the guy that
superhero?
Yeah, who was the guy that David Wood cited in his debate with Kenny Bomer?
Was it Dr. Joshua Little?
Yes, Little. That's his name.
He's my favorite scholar. He's a great scholar, and he talks with a person who debated with Daniel, and Jai and DOC covered that debate, but it was like not Khalil Andani. It's another person. He's very like progressive Muslim. I forget what his
I
name
tell you
is.
what, you don't mix it up with Jai and Daughter of Christ. Those two are killers. I mean, they really are.
Well, they know Arabic very well. I mean, they're
and
experts.
they know that they have what I would call tight shot groups. Well, they know their stuff. Okay, guys, I'm sorry I got to wrap
You have
this
to
up
go?
early. Oh yeah, I got to go. We got grandchildren
No, I
things that
get
we
it.
got to do tonight, and then we got to be on the road at dark 30 tomorrow morning. So God bless you all. Next week we'll get to look at I have 26 sources here that I wanted to cover tonight, and I didn't get one of them, which is okay. But we're going to discuss the fruits of this faith system that derive mainly from the Hadith literature that we were discussing tonight. Again, everybody, remember to pray for Isa and his mom for the recovery and grace. Grace, especially grace at this time, the recovery is probably certain, but the grace that they need during this process is just as, if not more important, to give them the ability to cope with it and to do those things and have the discipline to do those things to make themselves all that much better. And we will be back here, and I will be coming off of a day of work next week, come to think about it. But we will be back here next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Crossing the Crescent Discussion Group. God bless you, and we will see you all then.
Advanced student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.